Welcome. We bid you welcome. John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world. And today, with my faithful co-captain on this little series of that I still have yet to find a good catchy name for, talking about Armored Saint, my fellow man who's gone out on a limb with me on these series, who is obviously no human vulture, but we're going to try not to be underdogs as we go through this. John, the Music Nut, how you doing, my friend?
I am underdog, speed of lightning, bolt of thunder. How about you, John?
Oh man,
I'm doing good.
uh, and people wonder at work why I'm not in isolation at times, but
Yeah.
no, this is a good thing because we're talking Armored Saint. We're talking their third album that came out on Chrysalis. This would be their last album on the Chrysalis label, Raising Fear. With what an album cover!
Absolutely.
Man, I mean, I should have talked about this during Delirious Nomad, but I mean, we look at this for Delirious Nomad. Let's just look at this thing again. You get this kind of this picture of like a post, like an atom bomb going off with like this, this ransom note of, writing for the Delirious Nomad thing.
Right.
And then you get this absolutely majestic thing for Raising Fear with the big saint coming through Washington D.C. here, it looks like. And there's the with the sword. I guess the sword almost looks like the Washington Monument here, but here it's coming through the ground, man. How majestic is that?
That's
Great
great.
album cover. There's the guys on the back, with the John Bush looking pretty confident, and Joey Vera there, and then Gonzo, and of course we have Dave Pritchard there on guitar. Man, oh man. Another solid album by these guys. And again, I did, just like on last episode, I did not do my homework as far as when this thing charted. And again, Wiki doesn't tell me that it charted on the top 200, but it had to have somewhere. But man, Raising Fear, John the Music Nut. Let's get into it.
Well, thank you, John. First of all, just looking at this picture, they got away from that warrior getup, and now they look like a great meat and potatoes heavy metal band.
Yep.
So,
And
you
and
know,
that,
so
and now when you look at Joey and John, they don't have to worry about hair care.
that's true. That's definitely true. Now, this album here, this time, not happy with the production from Michael James Jackson on the debut, March of the Saints, and Max Norman on Delirious Nomad. They decided to produce the album themselves along with Chris Minto. Now, how is the recording? It's not, it doesn't really capture the power that is Armored Saint. I think the best recorded one was Delirious Nomad, but here it's just still lacking. They just still sound a little bit reined in. And I think by the time we talk about the next album, this is when everything blossoms, especially the recording. But as we go through the tracks here now, they were having a lot of issues with Chrysalis at this point. It took them a long time to record this album. I believe they had a version and it was asked to be scrapped, and then they had to work on it again. But we'll get into some of those things here when we talk about it. The first track, title track, kicks ass. It's a great opener. It's great. One thing you hear on here more than the previous two albums, you got a lot more backing vocals, these gang vocals in the background. I think that adds a good element to the band. It works for them. So Raising Fear is a great opener. And before we go on to the rest of the album, let's just say there are 4-piece here, just like they were on Delirious Nomad. You have John Bush on lead vocals, you have Joey Vera on bass, you have Dave Pritchard on lead guitars, all guitars, and you got Gonzo Sandoval on drums. Now, as for the album itself, it's not as musically adventurous as Delirious Nomad. The songs are a lot more straight ahead heavy metal, built on the riff. So that's a bit of a disappointment. The songs are good though, but having said that, I'm not a fan of the next song. They do a cover of Leonard Skinner's Saturday Night Special. Now, I love the original.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge Leonard Skinner fan, but I like Leonard Skinner a lot. I think that work from the 70s, especially the first two albums and Street Survivors, those albums are amazing. Nothing Fancy, not quite so much. Same thing with Give Me Back My Bullets, but Saturday Night Special was from Nothing Fancy originally. That album was from 1975.
Yeah.
Now, here, it's not like they play it well, but it just doesn't sound like them. It seems awkward. And you could tell the record company's like, we got to get a hit. We're going to make you do a cover. So they do this, and they brought it out on tour. I don't think they ever did it again after this tour. It's just not Armored Saints. It's, give them an E for effort. It doesn't have that excitement of the original. Again, John sounds great. The band sounds great, but they just, I don't know. It sounds like there's a chokehold on them on this. It just doesn't sound like them.
Okay.
It wasn't a good version for a cover. I don't think they should have did. Their songwriting skills were already there. A band like this, they don't have to do covers, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Out on a Limb is very straight ahead, very good rocker. Good riff on here. Very well played. 3 minutes and 40 seconds, just cuts to the chase. It does it really well. Isolation, I think, is the first very impressive song on here. I think this is excellent. I love the bridge that leads into the chorus. It's like a ballad, but oh my God, John soars like the sun on this. This is a fantastic track. Fantastic. They should still do this live, in my opinion. That song and the next one, which is Chemical Euphoria, are my favorite songs on the album. Now, Chemical Euphoria is a live staple to this day. This is a song on drug addiction. Very well done. Great solo, another great bridge going into the chorus. Musically, it kicks. And this is smoking. Excellent track. I've loved this song ever since I heard it in the 80s. And a version on Saints Will Conquer as well, the live EP, which they did on Metal Blade. Crisis of Life, that's got a nice groove in it. That's very, very good. I love the breakdown in the middle when Joey's just playing that bass. Dun, 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 and then you got Dave putting in a solo, but it's a different kind of solo. It's
almost
not
like a clean.
Yeah, it's very clean. It just doesn't have that rage that you usually hear. It doesn't have those great kamikaze sounds and all that fancy playing. Very good track.
Mm-hmm.
Frozen Will into Legacy. Frozen Will's the instrumental that leads into it. Legacy is about the Book of Noah. That is a very good song. It's more fast-paced once it gets into the vocal part. Human Vulture. Okay, this is a good song. It's about cannibalism. It's metal. Let's put it this way. It's not as accessible as a lot of the other songs on here. But I mean, if you want something heavy and gripping, Human Vulture will work. It does the job. Book of Blood. This is another heavier track. Song a lot about conflict, pressure situations. This one I like. I don't think it's great, but I do like it a lot. Terror's more of the Iron Maiden galloping bass line thing. That one's very good. I actually wrote down here, it does feel a little more like Saxon. Again, it's very straight ahead, not as adventurous as a lot of stuff on Delirious Nomad. Again, Underdogs is the closer. I don't like the chorus much, but other than that, I think the song The song is quite good. It's very menacing. Decent closer. They could have did it. Would have worked better with a better chorus, I thought. Now this album, I would say, you got a lot of stuff here really good in the middle of the album. What's around it? I mean, outside the title track, not, it's all solid. I would give this a 7.
Okay.
I think it's solid. I don't. They probably needed a breakthrough here, and this wasn't the breakthrough. We'll get into that later on this series. And we're talking, when we talk breakthrough, we're talking creatively, sonically. They didn't hit it commercially. It's a shame. But they do got some great stuff coming up. But this is if you like the first 2 albums, you'll certainly like this. It's solid, not as strong, but still, if you're a fan, you'll dig this. And there are some great tracks on here, which is particularly Isolation and Chemical Euphoria.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. This is a longer CD. This is like clocks in at almost 52 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you got to, you're starting to get into that CD age where they're trying to put a little bit more on the music there. So there you go. Yeah, Raising Fear. Wow. Again, great kickoff track. I love that raw chorus, solid guitar solo. Basically rebellion rearing its ugly head, or maybe its pretty head, depending on how you want to look at it. Here's the thing about Saturday Night Special, though. I liked it. I was really into it. I almost felt like it fit this album, actually, because again, you kind of have this angst against the record label.
Okay.
So, and there's Saturday Night Special does, it's obviously about guns, but I think there's a certain aggression and confidence in John's vocal delivery, and I think the way the band delivered the song, for me, I thought it kind of fit personally. I liked it. I dug it. When I first started hearing it, I'm like, hey, wait a second, is this the Leonard Skinner song? It didn't register with me at first. I just figured it was one of their own. So at first I completely glossed over the fact, hey, wait, but this is a cover of a Leonard Skinner song. So I missed that part, but at first, but I thought it was good. I liked it. I will say something though. Butch Jones from Sea of Tranquility's Hudson Valley Squares. I have seen him talk about this record. This is his favorite Armored Saint album, hands down.
Cool.
And I think because he was in the radio business for a while in the 80s, especially, he got to be friends with some musicians, and Dave Pritchard was one of them. More on that later, but he agrees with you. He didn't think it fit on the album at first. I think he's come to like it over time.
Okay.
But he didn't think it fit back then either. So you and him would agree on that one. Out on a Limb, good raw gritty song about sticking it to the man. Another song to me, Dave Pritchard just absolutely shines on. You're going to hear me say that quite a lot on this album. For this album, Isolation. Here's my notes on this one. A slower song, and at those intro points, almost reminded me a little bit of Watch the Children Pray.
A little bit, yeah.
So that was where a little bit after that. So I kind of got that with that, and but it's such a great track. I mean, the chorus, and John's just singing for his life on that thing. Just a fabulous song. Chemical Euphoria, which again we got to see that live. It was played for us too, song about addiction, but again, wonderful song. They do it extremely well live. Understandable why it's still a staple to this day. Crisis of Life, gotta love that opening groove, that opening riff and groove of this, that first solo, like we talked about, with the breakdown and everything, song here about mental illness. I liked Frozen Will, that instrumental, again, just letting Dave just shine, just how he put that thing together. I felt that was such a nice track. Legacy, I mentioned that my wife, I read the lyrics to Released from Delirious Nomad to my wife, and she's like, okay, yeah, that's enough. And then I started reading her the lyrics to Legacy, and it basically, you're right. It's talking about the story of Noah here. A legacy was made to warn man. The legacy has risen to warn again. This is like, there's reasons why, God did what he did back in the day. Why he wanted to wipe everybody off the face of the earth. That's why he told Noah, hey, get two of every kind of beast and animal, get your family on this ark, and I'm going to flood the world out and we're going to start all over. Well, of course, he said that then he would never do that again. But then, man is man and humans are humans. And well, they as the song says, a legacy was made to warn man, and it keeps the mistakes of man just keep on coming, and they don't ever stop. Anyway, True. So not to get on a soapbox there. Human Vulture, loved that drum pattern from Gonzo throughout this song. I just thought Gonzo just has some nice, tasty stuff. That's something I've always noticed about him. He brings in some really good, tasty drum fills. It just works for the band, it works for the style. Cannibalism, vampires, it all kind of ties into me. To me, I read vampires more than cannibalism, but either way, you get the same idea. Definitely not going to be something you're going to hear on your top 40 charts, top 40 radio too quickly. Book of Blood, I thought, was another shining Dave Pritchard solo, very power metal feel. Just another great track right there. Terror, very poignant song about extremists. Again, great guitar themes in that song, because you had those days of the Shredder from Shrapnel Records, and when they did those, anytime you hear those instrumental numbers, you always have to have some kind of lyrical theme before they start going into the solo pits. You got to have some kind of a nice theme that sucks you in, like say like an Yngwie Malmsteen's Black Star, for example. Nice. You got to have that guitar, you got to have that lyrical theme in there. Surfing with the Alien would be another one that would be like that. You got to have that theme, and to me, Terror has those kind of neat little themes mixed in there, and I love them. I thought Underdogs was a good aggressive album closer. Again, just another song about rebellion against the man kind of thing. But my big takeaway on this album, and really Delirious Nomad too, is just simply two words: Dave Pritchard. He just absolutely shines on this album. This one, even I think more so than Delirious Nomad, but he just absolutely shines on this album. And what a sad day, when he was taken from us due to leukemia. I put the question out, I think, in Butch Jones's Facebook group. What if Dave hadn't gotten the leukemia? How would the band have gone on from there? Would we have gotten the John Bush-led Anthrax? There's a thought for you.
Yeah.
I think there's stories out there where both John Bush was, kind of being teased to maybe having joined Metallica back in the early days.
That's true.
After Cliff Burton died in the bus crash, I think they were even trying to get Joey Vera, but Joey was like, no, I want to stick with Armored Saint, which unfortunately after Symbol of Salvation, then they would kind of split up because of, just the way the band, where everybody was going, especially after Dave passed away. But, and then you had the Sandoval brothers, which of course by this point Phil was gone and doing his own thing. But man, what the things that could have happened have if Dave hadn't gotten the leukemia and hadn't died. It just blows my mind to think about that kind of stuff. But yeah, um, Butch apparently became good friends with Dave Pritchard. So, and I hope Butch, I hope you don't mind me using telling your story here. But I just, to me, he just was like, man, I agree. But his shining moment was this album. So, what do I rate it? I think I'm going to stick with the 8.5.
Okay.
I think I'm going to, I think I hate to keep being like a, because I think I've given an 8.5 just about everything here so far, but to me, it's just that I actually almost like this one a little bit more than Delirious Nomad, but there's so much good stuff on both. I mean, I like everything on these albums because this is what heavy metal should be. You're supposed to have this element of kind of a danger. Maybe it's not this over the top aggressive, but there's that element of danger where, come 1986, 1987, you had, what was some of your big heavy metal bands yet? You have Motley Crue, who went from Shout at the Devil to Theater of Pain.
Yeah.
You had Rat, Out of the Cellar, and Invasion of Your Privacy, and then they started kind of getting a little, they lost some of that edge to them even after Invasion of Your Privacy, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, they got more commercial on Dancing Undercover and Reach for Step.
Bon Jovi was never dangerous.
No.
But I mean, let's see who would be another good example. Saxon started kind of going more commercialized.
Yeah,
Sabotage went commercialized with Fight for the Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Wasp.
Yeah, Wasp did on Electric
Wasp
Circus.
certainly did. So Ozzy. So there's a lot of examples out there of bands that they just lost that danger.
And Raven did for that one album.
Well, even Raven did. Raven did. Even they got commercialized with, but then they realized the error of their ways, and then they say, "Oh, here's Life's a Bitch, and here's Mad." So there you go. But yeah, I mean, there's so Armored Saint didn't need to be as scary as a Venom or a Slayer or something like that, but they still have that element of danger that you could hear their music playing off the background for like Escape from New York or some post-apocalyptic movie because it fit, and that was what you wanted for their sound. So anyway, there you go. That was my emotional rant about heavy metal. Yes,
there you go.
It's probably because I was at Prague Power a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, man, that was a great atmosphere to be around. But anyway, so there you go. All right, well, what kind of tour did they do with Raising Fear?
Okay, well, they didn't get on a big one, but they did do one date. Before I get into the big tour, they did do one date in Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, Irvine, California. They were the mid band. The headliner was Dio.
Ooh.
And the openers, Faster Pussycat. That was in August of '87. Yeah. But the majority of the time, they did quite a bit of touring, and they did a lot of touring in '88, but a lot of their tour was a 2-month tour they did called the Hell on Wheels tour. And they were the middle band. The opening band was Helloween, and the headliner, well, maybe it was them and this band was a co-headliner, Grim Reaper.
That's a tour.
Yeah. And they played the Allentown Fairgrounds on September 20, '87. Which is
I was yeah, and I was living in Maryland, so I didn't even know about that show.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. But it was, they played Warner Theater in Washington, D.C., Sundance in Bayshore, New York, the Living Room in Providence, Rhode Island. They did play Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bigger, not an arena size, but it was bigger than your standard theater. Then you had Rock and Roll Heaven in Toronto, Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey, the Agora in Cleveland, they're still around. And you had the show in Agora was recorded for the Saints Will Conquer EP.
Okay, right.
Just to let you know that. They played Harpo's in Detroit. We talked a lot about Harpo's on the Wasp series that we did. And they played the Rock in Papillon, Nebraska. And they played headlines in Madison, Wisconsin, and Bogarts in Cincinnati. That's another one we've talked about a lot. And then in '88, they went back out. They did a stadium show with Alice Cooper. And they did some shows with Macaulay Schenker Group.
Ooh,
and they played a lot of places we've talked about before. They played Lost Horizon in Syracuse. They went back to L'Amour's in Brooklyn. They played Mississippi Nights in St. Louis, Celebrity Theater in Phoenix, Paramount Theater in Seattle. They also did shows with King Diamond in October of '88. They played back at L'Amour in Brooklyn. They played the Ritz in New York City. They played TLA, Theater of Living Arts in Philadelphia, PA, which is still there and still getting a lot of great shows. They went back to the Living Room in Providence, back to the Channel in Boston, Massachusetts. So, and then on the tour, they hit this album pretty hard. They played the title track, Saturday Night Special, Out on a Limb, Human Vulture, Book of Blood, Chemical Euphoria, and Legacy, all live. So they did a lot more touring here. More often than not, they were playing smaller venues, but they were at least getting out there. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the set here from when we had seen them. It looks like Chemical Euphoria was the only song they did from this album. Yes. Yeah, because they did when I saw them, they did Nervous Man from Delirious Nomad. Of course, the last three are from the March of the Saint.
Right.
Rain of Fire, which is on Symbol, I think.
Yes, that's the opening track.
Attention at the end of the Attention Span, Standing at the Shoulder of Giants. I believe that's on the Punching the Sky album.
Yes, it is.
Of course, Last Train Home, that's on Symbol.
Yes.
And Win Hands Down, which is
on Win Hands Down.
That's on Win Hands Down. They on this last tour, they didn't hit that album as hard, but they definitely hit one of the best songs on it. So
when I not to interrupt you, but when we saw them at Penn's Peak, they actually had to cut out a song, and they cut out Chemical Euphoria, which bummed me out. But they did almost every other night of the tour, but they didn't play it at Penn's Peak. Maybe they got on a little bit late and they had to cut a song, but why'd you cut that one?
Yeah, because
I understand you got to promote a new album though too.
Because I'm looking at y'all's set, and you got Long Before I Die.
We did get Long Before I Die,
which we didn't get that in Atlanta, okay. but you guys got Long Before I Die. So, and that's the only thing, and that's the only really, and of course cutting out the thing, but that they do mention that was the first show he came back to after his illness. So
right, and Jason McMaster was singing for him for a few shows.
Yeah,
our favorite singer for hire.
And
we say that respectfully, by the way.
Oh yes, absolutely. He filled in for Accept. He filled in for Armored Saint. Of course, he's still killing it with Dangerous Toys now and then, and somewhere down the line, we're going to be talking some Dangerous Toys too.
That's right.
Those four albums are really good.
Oh yeah, and he's singing with Dirty Looks.
He's singing with Dirty Looks. Yeah,
I'll be seeing them in a few weeks. So
that's going to be good. That's going to be good stuff. But okay, again, Armored Saint Nation, let's hear it for Raising Fear. Tell us what you think about this album. Again, hit those comments, hit the live chat, hit something. Let us know what you think of this. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know what you guys are thinking. Let us know what you think of this series. We're having a good time talking about these albums, and we got a few more to go. I think we're going to do something a little more fun though, with a Symbol of Salvation. However, but I think that's going to be a good one. Just
Oh,
hang tight. Just hang tight for that. So for my fellow man raising fear with me on this journey, who's gone out on a limb with me on this, John the Music Nut. I am John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world. We'll see you soon when we talk some Symbol of Salvation. Take care, everybody.
Keep punching the sky, our friends.
That's
See
right.
ya.
See ya.
Yeah.